Hello and all, welcome to a Galaxy Man Show interview show. So for my very next guest of this week is this incredible actress known by the name of Renay Reyes. So I'm about to add Renay into the live now to have a chat with Renay. So yeah, let's get Renay in and have a chat with Renay. Hi Renay.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, really good, thanks. I just want to say first up, thank you so much for taking the time to join my show, Renay. It's such a pleasure having you.
Absolutely.
To people that don't know who you are, Renay, if you can give like a bit of backstory about who you are and what you do, and then we'll dive right into the questions.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I'm an actress. I'm from the Midwest, and I started acting about like 10, 12 years ago. I moved to LA like 4 years ago, and I moved back to Michigan. Um, and now I'm married and I have kids. And it's kind of cool because I get to do both. I get to, juggle being a mom and act.
So we'll dive right into the very first question now, Renay. So for my very sorry about that.
Yeah, I lost you
I had a
there for
call.
a second.
Yeah. Okay. So for my very first question, Renay. So back in 2012, you were actually in this incredible action adventure film called The Stone Sisters Exodus, and you actually played the role of Rachel Stone. What was that whole experience like, getting to be in this film?
Well, that was actually my very first speaking role in a feature film. And it was so exciting. It was really phenomenal for lots of reasons. Um, Firstly, I worked with Aaron Greer, and we've been working together for quite a long time now. And he's just so creative and so friendly. He's an incredible person to work with. Um, I also got to do a lot of stage combat and fight scenes, which I've always wanted to do. Yeah, and it was kind of fun because it was just a lot of people on set all the time. And there was like the bad guys in the film, and they're all a bunch of like Harley riders. And then there's me like fighting them. So yeah, it was just all such a phenomenal experience. I got to learn stage combat. The choreographer was amazing. Doing the choreography every day was just so much fun.
So on to my very next question. So what was your like favorite memorable moment or scene to shoot in this the Stone Exodus, and why?
So the Stone Sisters, one of my favorite scenes was actually where Rachel Stone had to fight off like 10 guys. And they're the whole gang, and they're just like one after another and coming at me, and there's like me, and beating these big guys up, and it was so awesome. That was my favorite part of the film. And then also there was this scene, like it was more of an intimate scene between Rachel Stone and her sister, where we had an argument. And it was pretty interesting because like I have a sister in real life, and so like I got to pull from that. And being an actor and being able to pull from like real life is really awesome. So that's what kind of stood out to me the most.
So on to my very next question. So back in 2018, you were actually in a TV show called Some Guy, and you actually played the role in Some Guy.
Yeah.
Whole experience like for you getting to be in this incredible TV show?
Well, Some Guy was really interesting to me because it was written and directed by Joshua Crotade. And the reason why that is interesting to me is because he was the director of like the very, very first thing I'd ever worked on. And it was like a zombie type film. And I played a zombie for like my first role ever, which was really cool. But then coming back like full circle and being able to work with him again on Some Guy was really cool. It's about you know, just a writer who's like feeling pretty lonely, and he sort of always gets like in the friend zone with the ladies. So I got to play one of the ladies, and it was a great experience, of course.
Awesome. So on to my very next question. So what was your like favorite memorable moment or scene to shoot in Some Guy and why?
So I'll have to say my favorite moment would have been when we shot in a theater. And it was, I don't know, I'm all about like cinematography, of course. Like even though I love the acting portion of it, I love like the idea of being a cinematographer as well. But like the fact, I don't know, it was just him and I in this theater, and then just like the lights projecting and everything, like in that scene, and being able to have that time where like nobody else is there and we get to play with our characters a little bit. It was really cool. So I would have to say it was the scene where we were in the theater, and you know, his character is having some thoughts on the side about the girl that's sitting in the front row, you know. So it was really cool.
So on to my very next question. So back in 2017, you were actually in a short drama called The Last Prophet, and you actually played the role of Leela. I hope I said that.
Yeah,
What
you
was that?
did.
What was that whole experience like, getting to play Leela in The Last Prophet?
So, you know, I always have had a knack for biblical stories, and The Last Prophet is a beautiful story. It's about John the Baptist, and I got to play Layla, which for me was a little bit difficult because it's an antagonist role. And, you know, I guess I never really imagined at that time playing a role like that. Um, but it was still awesome. It was so beautiful because we got to film in such a great location in Michigan. It was this city called Ludington, and yeah, and there's like a beautiful lighthouse, and we're by like Lake Michigan. It was just stunning. But yeah, the storyline and everything, just like I was drawn to it. It's another Aaron Greer film, which was really cool. And I got to work with such amazing talent. My co-actor Bob, who is just like, he's so incredible. He kept like improvising in the scenes, and it was just like, it was really challenging as an actor to work with someone like that, because for me, like I guess I've always been intimidated by the improvisation when we're on set, but that working on that film, like I felt like was a huge growth for me because of working with Bob.
So on to my very next question. So what was your like favorite memorable moment or scene to shoot on The Last Prophet as Leela, and why?
So my most memorable moment would have been when John and Layla are having a moment, like having dialogue back and forth on the sand, like in the middle of nowhere. It was like in the middle of nowhere, and we were just like having this back and forth dialogue, and he kept improvising. And as I said earlier, and I was just like, oh my God, where do I go with this? But it was awesome that he kept pulling me into it. And it was so great. Like I said, like the views and everything, you know? So,
Awesome. Well, can I just say, I actually checked out The Last Prophet this week before this interview,
oh,
and
cool.
you were actually phenomenal, like in The Last Prophet as the
Oh my
role.
gosh, thank you so much.
Truly talented. Whoever hasn't seen The Last Prophet, definitely go check it out. To people that haven't seen it,
Yes.
Renay does such an incredible job. So yeah, I applaud your incredible performance in The Last Prophet.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So on to my very next question. So in 2016, you were also in a short thriller this time called The Hostage, and you actually played the role of Bridget. What was the experience
Yes.
like, getting to be in a thriller and getting to play Bridget?
So the hostage was really special to me because it sort of happened at this time where like it was the role was offered to me when I had moved back from LA to Michigan. And at that time I was kind of like having doubts of, you know, oh, is this still gonna happen out here for me? Are we, you know, am I still gonna have opportunities to work with here? And so I got offered that role, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting, because you know, like it's always when you're doubting where something just sort of pops up like that. And so I took that as a sign, and I accepted the role. and it was a really cool experience. We were filming again in Grand Rapids, and everybody was great. The whole crew, the talent there as well. We had to do some choreography too because I had some kidnapping scenes to work with, which was cool. But yeah, it was overall such a phenomenal experience.
So on to my very next question. So what was your like favorite scene to shoot in The Hostage and why?
My favorite scene was this is kind of funny, but I was kidnapped and I was put in the trunk of a car. I don't know why I would consider that to be my favorite scene because I'm slightly claustrophobic. Just like I feel like we all are claustrophobic to a certain degree. But I think for me as an actor, it's always exciting to be able to experience something that I haven't, before. And I think just like being able to like be in the trunk and just like feel the feeling of how it would feel to, feel kidnapped or whatever. And so it like made it more authentic, obviously. But I was like, please don't lock the trunk. So I kept like knocking on it, like just to make sure that it would lift up a little bit. Um, but it was such a cool experience, like just experiencing that portion of it.
So that was my very next question. So who inspired you as a person to get into acting in the first place?
That's a really good question. It's a couple people come to mind. But first and foremost, I will say that Natalie Portman was really the reason why I pursued acting in the first place. When I was really young, my dad introduced me to this film called Leon the Professional. Do you know? Yeah.
Yes.
So it was like literally it's my top five, like my all-time favorite film. And I remember seeing this like 11-year-old, acting, and it was like incredible. I was blown away. And I had to, I don't know, I just wanted to follow in those footsteps. I obviously started a lot later than she did. But she is really why I started this in the first place. And another person that comes to mind personally was my grandmother. Like we would sit down watching movies all the time together, and she'd always like whisper in my ear, I want to see you on TV one day. So I'm like, oh, I have to do this. And I wanted to do this. Like I wanted to do this since I was a kid.
So on to my very next question. So what have you learned about yourself as a person, like especially during COVID?
So wow, that's an incredibly, incredibly awesome question. I think it's a difficult one too. I would say that what I've learned during COVID is, so I've always been a serious introvert, and it's kind of ironic because my work is totally extroverted. But yeah, I think during COVID I realized like how important certain relationships are, and not always like rejecting certain events and certain things, certain people that you would, I don't know, normally you're just like, no, it's okay, we can do this another day. So I kind of had realized that, there's, keeping up with those relationships are very important. And also, like I grew a profound gratitude and appreciation for people who are sort of there that you kind of overlook, like the person working at the grocery store, or somebody working in a restaurant. All these people sort of stuck around for everyone, and I totally like have grown an appreciation for them. I thought that like with the stuff that I do now, like with the acting and stuff, like I thought that it would sort of die down, but I like the desire in my heart was still there, and I felt like it grew even more. So I feel like I've definitely taken a lot during this time, and I think that if you haven't, I would be shocked because we all we all went through some dark days over here. So
Oh yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
on to my next question for you. So if you could be in like any TV or movie franchise, what would it be and why?
I love when people ask me this because it's so exciting to think about. Like I would absolutely love to play a superhero. I'm sure you hear that all the time. That's the whole reason why I started doing stage combat, you know, and working on fight scenes and such, was for that. And also just something that would be like totally opposite of me, just, you know, like playing a Greek goddess or something, like something really cool. But on the complete opposite spectrum, thinking about being on a sitcom like Friends, that would be really cool because I felt like that show totally touched the hearts of people and brought so much joy, you know, in certain households. And you know, that's why I want to do this, is to sort of like move people and, you know, like just, I don't know, just help people through the work, you know?
Well, if anyone hasn't checked out the Friends reunion, by the way, it's really incredible. I have to actually mention that on the show.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I actually watched it yesterday, and I was like,
Did
wow, like,
you?
yeah, I was so
Oh my
blown
God,
away.
I can't wait to see it. I'm so
Yeah, it had
excited.
so many like good bloopers and like behind the scenes stuff. It's phenomenal what
Oh,
they've
great. I can't wait.
done. Yeah. So on to my very next question. So, what are like the positives and negatives into the acting industry, and how do you get through those negatives, like as an actor?
That is such a loaded question, but like so many things come to mind. So many things come to mind. But I'll definitely touch on the ones that are first and foremost to me right now. I would say that in this industry, of course, it's so easy to compare yourself to other people. I think in general, it's easy to compare yourself to people. But I think in this industry, why there's more of that is because you're usually put up against other people, like, you know, like the big guys, you know? And so it's easy for you to sort of compare yourself in your head and like, oh, you know, okay, if that other brunette is looking this way and has whatever, and so you think about like going to the gym or you know, even sometimes doing like certain plastic surgeries or whatever. I think it's important to like really accept who you are because every certain person brings something to the table, you know? Like if you watch a film, not every actor is the same person. So it's like it's yeah, I mean just like sort of have to dealing with figuring that out is tough. Um I would say what else? Yeah, I would say when you're first starting out and you like you're googling everything and you're like, oh, let me figure out how to like film or make a self tape or something, and so you find like a whole list of things and you're like, oh, this is how you have to do a, you know, a self tape. But then you go on Instagram and you like look up the casting directors and they're like posting, oh, this is what you need to do a self tape. And it's like all this noise and it's all different stuff. So you really have to just sort of follow your like actor's instinct, I guess I call it. Um, so yeah, there's that as well. But I will say a big positive for me. Hi people. Um, a really positive for me would be that I really have learned so much about myself with this career, with acting in general. Um, it's kind of interesting, but you really do, you know, I don't know, you just find some things out about yourself and the self work and everything. You really need to do that to sort of bring your characters to life. And I wouldn't have found these things about myself, I feel like, in any other career. So, you know, that's definitely a positive.
So on to my very last question, Renee. So what's like next for you for like the rest of 2021, like project wise, that you would like to announce on the show?
So, actually, this interview is such perfect timing because I just wrapped up my episode on The Watchers, which is a series that's going to be picked up on Redeem TV, which is a Christian platform. And so our premiere is going to be next year. And I play Tara, who is, it's a little bit of a controversial role, actually. She is an advocate for the pro-life movement. But yeah, it was such an incredible time filming it last week, and I cannot wait for it to come out. So definitely look out for that.
Well, can I just say thank you so much, Renay, for taking the time to join my show. It's been such a pleasure having you on the show today. Do you have like any last final
Well,
thoughts that
thank
you'd like?
you. Thank you
You're
so
very
much for
welcome.
having me.
Very welcome. Do you have like any last final like thoughts that you'd like to say to people on the show?
Hmm. Well, I would say that if there is something that you want to do that totally feels out of reach to you, because when I first started acting, I was just like, oh my God, how do I start? What do I do? You know, where do I even begin? You know, I would say the very first place would be to take a class. I think that's what a doctor does, right? That's what a surgeon does, or that's what a lawyer does. And so people just sort of want to be found and discovered. But I think taking a class would be, you know, the very first step. And then that leads to the next thing and the next thing. And that's sort of what happened with me. But like with me, I actually took a class at like a very fraudulent acting school, which I don't recommend that. But it actually turned out to be really awesome because that landed me my first like professional role, which I was a stand-in in a Disney TV series called The Wannabes. Yeah, and it was really exciting. It was so great because I learned so much. But yeah, I think that's definitely what I would say to everyone. And good luck to you.